Standard editor Bill Kristol has revealed that his search for an independent candidate to run against Donald Trump has come down to the hopelessly unknown National Review staff writer David French. Many Republicans are turning to the Libertarian Party as their voting alternative to Donald Trump. Already, polls show the Libertarian Party getting 10% of the vote in three-way polling against Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And this weekend in Orlando, Florida, at the Libertarian Party convention, two former Republican governors accepted the presidential and vice presidential nominations. Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico, will once again run as the Libertarian nominee for president. And first-time nominee William Weld, former governor of Massachusetts, will run for vice president. Here's how Donald Trump graciously welcomed them to the race today.
Gary Johnson got 1% of the vote last time. I watched that whole situation. It was really pretty disgraceful. I think it's a total fringe deal. I think he's a fringe candidate, you want to know the truth. I look at him and I watch his motions and I watch what he says. I think that he is a fringe candidate. And your second, Weld, is, when you do a little research on that, I think it's not going to be a factor.
Joining us now, the Libertarian nominee for President Gary Johnson and his running mate, the party's nominee for vice president, former Governor Bill Weld. Gary Johnson, what's your response to what Donald Trump just had to say?
I just totally embrace it. I and Bill both have been fringe candidates from the very beginning. Republican governors re-elected twice in heavily blue states, embracing marriage equality, embracing a woman's right to choose, legalizing marijuana. Look, let's stop dropping bombs. Fiscally conservative, socially liberal. Hey, we've been fringe this whole way through. He nailed it.
Bill Weld, this weekend was your first Libertarian convention. So the first time you've seen a guy sort of half strip on the stage. That happens at Libertarian conventions.
Well, I've seen that in Hasty Pudding theatricals.
Yes, not that you've never seen it, but at a convention. So what for you was the most difficult thing, the difficult fit for you in libertarianism, moving from the Republican Party to the Libertarian Party?
None of it. I mean, I feel free at last. I don't have to wear the pack on my back of the anti-choice, we're uneasy about gays and lesbians, let us, the government, make decisions for you in your personal life. I've always hated that. And I had to wear it as a Republican very uneasily. And, I don't have to embrace democratic overspending and not really caring about $20 trillion in debt, which is going to hollow out our economy. I don't have to embrace that. So Gary and I are right in the middle. We're right where we want to be. We don't agree with half of the platform of either major party. So that puts us right in the center. And if you want to call the center a fringe, make the most of it.
But as a governor of Massachusetts, Republican governor of Massachusetts, you appeared to be concerned with environmental damage and in favor of certain kinds of environmental regulation.
Right.
You also seem to favor a social safety net that would support people at the lower end of the poverty population. That seems to me to contradict libertarianism.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I care a lot about the working poor, the poor stiff who has a wife and two kids. He's making $28,000 a year. He can't do it. I think what the governor of Massachusetts just did, which I did in my first year in office, to expand the earned income tax credit, I think that's a good thing. You got to think about people who are trying hard to make it in this country and not quite being able to do so.
Governor Johnson, we know why Bill Kristol wants to look beyond you for a presidential candidate, and it's what they consider the national defense component. Bill Kristol has never met a war adventure that he wasn't in favor of at any, including obviously the Iraq War, and that's the part of your approach that he would disagree with the most. What do you have to say to Republicans who are concerned with national security in the most traditional way that Republicans are, but don't want to pull that lever for Donald Trump?
Well, look, we need an impenetrable national defense. If we're going to attack, we're going to attack back. But I would say that these military interventions have resulted in making the world less safe, not more safe. And let's involve Congress in all this. We've got 69 countries in the world that we are obligated to defend their borders. And Congress has not authorized any of those treaties. That's been executive treaties and the military. And And when it comes to our military actions abroad, really, that's the executive, that's the military. Let's involve Congress. Let's get them right front and center. And I think the biggest threat in the world today is North Korea. At some point, these intercontinental ballistic missiles are going to work, and that's something we should join hands with. So you know, libertarians are often called, you know, non-interventionists or isolationists. Well, come on, let's have diplomacy to the hilt and join hands here with China. They recognize this threat from Korea. That's the most effective way to deal with this. Maybe we can get the troops out of South Korea. Maybe there can be a unification of the Koreas. But way different than what's happening.
In other words,
right
non-interventionist does not mean isolationist. I would never call myself an isolationist. I travel all over the world all the time. I think you can get a lot done, as Gary says, with diplomacy, including soft diplomacy. You know, the approach advocated by Professor Joe Nye at Harvard. You can do a lot without even, you know, formal engagement. And that's a good start. It's a heck of a lot better than nothing. Think of the ping-pong overture to China in 1972.
Governor Weld, you have said that Donald Trump's proposal about deporting 11 million or more people that are not documented here in this country reminds you of the Nazi era. Expand on that.
Well, it reminds me of the Jews being rounded up because of the Great Fear. And there would be great fear among the 11 million people whose papers are not in order in the United States. And they would be hiding in attics like Anne Frank, because they wouldn't want people to find them in whosever house they were hiding in. That, to me, is not the America we want to be. I mean, I've been obsessed by the Holocaust for a long time. And, you know, I've made a point of saying I'm not accusing Mr. Trump of being a fascist or a Nazi. But actions speak louder than words. And these actions proposed by him, I think, are very troubling. I think the wall is reminiscent of the Berlin Wall. I think him, you know, calling everybody, oh, this is Hugh the Aardvark or Kevin the Armadillo, and just repeating it until everyone's saying, oh, yeah, the Armadillo guy, that's Kevin, or Aardvark, that's Huey. Just asking people to drink Kool-Aid in the Republican primaries, apparently people did. To me, you know, it's analogous to Jim Jones at Guyana in Jonestown, you know, making people drink the Kool-Aid. That's politically poisonous Kool-Aid.
Governor Johnson, the last time you ran, you got 1% of the vote. You're already polling 10 times higher than that in this campaign. What about the debates? There is this notion that you need 15% in polls, about 5 consecutive polls, in order to qualify for the organized presidential debates. Do you think there should be a change in that, or are you willing to have that be the standard you have to meet?
No, the standard's fine. It's just appearing in the polls. You know, I have appeared in 3 polls, 10%, 10%, and 11%, but there have been another 40 polls that have gone by since then where my name has not appeared, and I see you guys did a poll, and, you know, there's not the Johnson-Weld name up there right now. Look, I think polls have a self-fulfilling prophecy. At a certain point, people check it out, and I think the two of us have records that really show, that really shine with the scrutiny that would go along with showing up at that level. So no problem with the 15%, just how about if you're on the ballot in all 50 states, which Bill and I are going to be on the ballot in all 50 states. We're going to be the only third party that can lay claim to that. Shouldn't there be shouldn't that entitle maybe us to be in the polls? That's all we're asking for.
Governors Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, thank you both for joining us tonight, beginning your first week campaigning as a ticket.
Lawrence, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much. Coming up, Hillary Clinton changes her schedule suddenly to run